up. And causality is not always understood even in the healthcare community in most cases. So now coming to some of the major symptoms that we are facing, and we need to ensure that the patient is well understood. So let's start with a couple of things. One, what are the things that you have to look for in a home care, and what are the things that you desperately need to send the patient to any hospital for? Okay, where can we draw a line? So in a normal COVID progression, even if the patient has high grade fever for a couple of days, even if the patient is facing severe weakness problems, or the patient is um, has been infected for around 10 days but is still facing cough symptoms, these three symptoms are manageable at home, quite essentially so, right? We have DMR for cough, of course. We of course can't do much directly about weakness, but if breathing even slightly varies, then Medrol can help out, but only when breathing SpO2 is affected by at least 10-point counts, right? So Medrol will take care of weakness up until we taper it down, of course, as you all know. And so anything, dextromethasone or methylprednisolone can take care of that, even in a home care, because these things do not need home monitoring. They are fairly stable medication and has fairly predictable outcome on the patient. Third thing that we can start with the patient on is, of course, antiviral, depending on what kind of CRP rate is present in the patient. So, okay, let's starting from the beginning first. What when a patient comes to you, what will you advise if the patient has, say, a rapid card or an RT-PCR negative positive? Then what will you advise the patient? So the three essential tests that generally are necessary are IL-6, D-dimer, and CRP. We can do away with the others, especially in cases which cannot afford others. But and D-dimer can be supplemented in some ways by ESR in rural areas. There is no D-dimer kit available, but I generally prefer IL-6 baseline to be done in most cases. Right? Once you have these three, you will be able to interpret three things mainly. One is the viral load, which CRP is indicative of. Even CT value in an RT-PCR can give it, but both of them have the same cost factor. So either can give you an indication. Second, what you can determine from either D-dimer or ESR is where on the clotting cascade is the patient lying. In patients at a higher age, in patients above 50, 55, especially rural patients, we have seen clotting cascades increasing fast, right? And D-dimer shooting up as high as 2,700, 2,900, which can be extremely dangerous. So now there are two ways to, for a higher viral load, there is a single way to manage it. What you do is you start the patient with a titering dose of antiviral therapy, and you start with a loading dose as has been indicated, depending on the weight of the patient. Also, you have to be cognizant of the initial comorbidities of the patient. If the patient has severe diabetes mellitus, or the patient has severe hypertension, please be cognizant to not give the entire loading dose. Also, any patient under the weight of 50 should not be given the entire loading dose, right? Because that will result in severe weakness symptoms, which is going to be very difficult to manage. Second, you have to understand D-dimer or ESR. So now the reason why clotting factor is important is because there are other symptoms that we see. We see lower limb pain. We see a lot of other dietary symptoms. We see loss of taste is no longer as evident, but we definitely see loss of appetite in a lot of patients, which has have to be managed symptomatically, obviously. But D-dimer is essential because D-dimer or ESR, of course, is essential because that could result in severe complications, which will need hospital intervention. So these symptoms can be managed in two ways, as you know very well. We can start with heparin LMWH, no molecular weight heparin, which is a costlier solution, more stable solution also. But in rural outreach areas where you can't afford to give a 600 rupee injection to every patient twice daily, warfarin also works best. But you should never exceed dosage in warfarin in such cases for more than 1 mg BD. Warfarin has a half-life time of around 12 hours, so BD works very well. That being said, warfarin any more than 1 mg has to be monitored very stringently, and BP has to be very regularly checked. When I say regularly, I mean once every 1.5 hours, right? Because if there is any internal bleeding that can be detected through some count drop of BP, and setting a baseline is of course important in that case, which you guys already know. So the management of that is tricky if you don't have anyone on ground managing it. But if you have a BP machine, then warfarin can be done, right? So that is another. Now the third is IL-6. IL-6, as you know very well, is an autoimmune marker. Also, how do we in this case combat autoimmunity? So if you look at the technical problem that we are facing is this, that on one hand we have an active viral load, which our immunity is combating, and we need our immunity to combat with it. Drugs always act through internal immune response, not on an individual basis ever, right? So you always need an internal immune response to basically work with antiviral drugs to eliminate an infection. On the second hand, the same immune response is going into an autoimmune hyperdrive or overdrive, and we need to curb that as well. So the third intervention, the steroidal intervention, corticosteroid intervention, or uh, the autoimmune response intervention has to be extremely well moderated. Right now, that is where your training comes into picture, where your steroid response needs to be titrated in such a way that it doesn't completely suppress immune response. If it suppresses immune response, then the patient succumbs to all kinds of secondary infection, right? As we have been listening to the news, even I have a couple of mucormycosis patients with me, and it spreads fast because all of patients here are immunocompromised in the ICU. So it is very difficult to manage such patients after a bit, right? And then it basically spreads to all systems like wildfire. And even in a hospital setup, even with most of the available drugs allowed, it's very difficult to manage in a patient, right? So be very cognizant of what is the concentration of steroid you're presenting. I suggest that you taper up a little sooner, but taper down very gradually, right? That will help the patient regain the same kind of mild activity. Because see, once what happens is if you start the patient on steroid, after a day or so, steroid also has a mood elevation effect that helps the patient very well. But if you stop the patient cold turkey, of course, which should never be done, but I have been getting patients who the doctors have stopped cold turkey at, say, an oral count of 32G BD, or basically 64 mg BD, right? Which is a lot. 64 mg BD is high concentration, this thing, high concentration steroid. If you stop cold turkey in these patients, not just there are going to be physical responses, anxiety responses, mood responses, and the patient is already suffering from respiratory distress. If that is added by severe anxiety or panic attacks, the patient will feel that the patient itself is dying, right? So you will have to be very cognizant of how that affects the patient's psyche also. In the last couple of days, we have actually tapered down by using Certa as well, so that the mood depreciation doesn't happen that fast, right? That can be done in a hospital setup, that can also be managed individually. But these are the kind of things you'll have to be very cognizant of when you use a steroidal suppression, autoimmune steroid suppression. Fourth main pointer is secondary infection. So when the patient presents and the patient is febrile, please also be cognizant that of what are the other secondary infections which are prevalent in that area. It could be typhoid, it could be it could be typhus, it could be TB, it could be any kind of fungal oral infection like mycosis, it could be any n number of complications that the patient could present with. Right? In such cases, if it's a bacterial infection, then of course you start with a antibacterial medication. In most cases, there's a case made for preventive medication so that the such secondary presentations don't crop up. I suggest that it should be done only in febrile cases because febrile response for both bacterial and viral infection is similar and cumulative. So we are not always able to isolate, and if testing is not always possible in rural outreach areas, then that prevention is necessary. But if you can test the patient, or if the patient is not febrile to begin with, please don't overuse antibiotics. We are already seeing secondary infections. If we start seeing resistant secondary infections, that's going to be the end of how we operate in this space, right? So be very wary of how you uh, prescribe antibiotics also. In my suggestion to no patients who is not febrile. Now coming to lung involvement in the patient, right? Generally, montelukast and levocetirizine combo is given so that breathing becomes slightly more easy or slightly easier. Now, in that case, how do you, is it necessary? Is it one of the necessary protocol medication? See, it can be if you feel that the person has any kind of mild respiratory distress. A lot of times, mild respiratory distress is not because of lung involvement, especially patients who are coming for home care. It might be because of psychosomatic reasons, because the patient is already positive, already scared, and that might lead to some basic respiratory distress symptoms. If the patient's SpO2 is dipping low and you feel that the patient has oral breathing or peripheral chest breathing issues, in that case, montelukast is a must. Montelukast available alone is a difficult find, because even in tier 2 cities, we only find combinations montelukast levocetirizine. So even a combination would be fine. Levocetirizine here is not really necessary, but it's pretty much the only available option. So might as well go with it, right? So that is some of the basic protocols. Of course, there are SOS symptomatic relief that all of you know how to manage. Apart from that, if you have any doubts, please let me know. If you have patients with raging diabetes, with raging hypertension who calls you and who already is COVID positive, please, one baseline advice to any patient with any comorbidities: do not stop any of your current medication until and unless indicated by the doctor. Right? Now, coming to examination. So in most cases, of course, in this case, it's a you are teleconsulting. So examination, percussion, auscultation is going to be difficult. But that being said, before you prescribe, please get at least please get the patient on video, see how the breathing is, see how the patient looks, see if there is some form of swelling, or after around a day of fever you always see some facial edema, right? It's always mild, but it's quite evident. There's palpebral edema in cases in patients. So please look for some signs of how the patient is doing, how the patient is speaking, how the respiratory distress is, how is it working. So please look for these signs before you start prescribing, because these signs will let you know um, if and how the dosage should progress, because the patient is not going to always know what's wrong with them or what's going on with them. ask targeted questions, especially in history taking, right? Because you can't end it with open-ended questions like, please tell us about your medical history, or please tell us about your surgical history. That will definitely not do. Most surgeries are fine, they don't have direct implication on the treatment protocol. But yeah, please take care of, as I said, about cardiac symptoms, about hypertension, about any kind of liver symptoms. Again, sorry for missing that out. Periodic examination of the patient's liver and kidney function is going to be extremely essential, especially if the patient is habitual user of any kind of products like cigarettes or alcohol, because anyway, in this case, there is suppression of liver function, suppression of kidney function. So you will have to be cognizant that the patient does not go into a all-out failure, right? A normal kidney function test and liver function test would work if the labs are around. If not, even a CRET and an SGPT would do, right? Now, if you guys have any questions, case specific or otherwise, please let me know. Hello? Hello?
Yes, doctor. Thank you for that. If anybody has any questions, now would be the time to ask Dr. Sabine because she can guide us in the best way possible. And I understand that some of you might be using a teleconsultation platform for the first time. So if there are any queries related to that, I'd be happy to take them up. But since Dr. Sabine has to leave, we can wrap up that part of the training first. If you have any questions about the protocol that you're supposed to use or how to deal with an SOS call. Okay, I guess there aren't any questions. Thank you so much, Dr. Sabine. We will be in touch with you. And in case any of these doctors need help, we will be
No
looking to
problem,
you for
Pallavi.
guidance.
No problem. Just do one thing. Whenever you do have case specific calls or case
Yes.
specific questions or even protocol specific questions, please curate them so I can address to them all at the same time. Right. And of course, if there's an emergency question, you can call me anytime, or an emergency case specific question. Just one note before I leave. Please go back to you guys are just passed out, so you already know a lot of theory that we already have forgotten. But please be cognizant of what you are prescribing. Please prescribe only what is necessary, only what is indicated, right? Don't overprescribe, even if you feel okay, it's scary, the patient is scared. So what should I do? Because of overprescription of steroids in a lot of places, we are facing problems that are unprecedented at the moment, and it's very difficult to deal with. I have had patients who were admitted for mucormycosis, and for 2 days they have been without drugs because we don't have amphotericin anymore. Things are out of control. So please be very cognizant of what you're giving. Remember that every drug is a half lifespan. You have to maintain concentration in the bloodstream, and you have to maintain concentration in the body. So be very wise in what concentration of drug you basically give. Be very wise in what uh, frequency of drug you are giving, and have a logic behind the explanation, right? That will help you treat the patient and the platform and your own practice legally as well, because you don't want anything wrong happening to the patient, but if it does, you also want to make sure that you have a logic for everything you did, right?
या
Hello.
या मैम थैंक यू वेरी मच मैम आप का तबीयत खराब होने के बाद भी आप जो समय निकाले और हम सबको इतनी अच्छी जानकारी दी और हम लोग की बातचीत जारी रहेगी और इनको कुछ और भी अगर डाउट आता है क्वेश्चन आता है तो मैं आपको फिर से कॉल पर आने के लिए बोल सकता हूँ आज के बाद और थैंक यू वेरी मच मैम फॉर गिविंग योर वैल्यूएबल टाइम थैंक यू
No problem. Take care. Bye.
So आगे डॉक्टर सिद्धार्थ सर से आग्रह करूं, डॉक्टर सिद्धार्थ सर से आग्रह करना चाहूँगा कि सर थोड़ा रूरल इंडिया का जो है कॉन्टेक्स्ट वो थोड़ा बताएंगे यहाँ पर कि कोविड को लेकर के क्या क्या लोगों का धारणा है और किस तरह से लोग इस चीज़ को रिस्पॉन्ड नहीं कर रहे हैं, ना ही ध्यान दे रहे हैं। तो हम लोग एक 5 से 10 मिनट के भीतर में बात करेंगे और देन फिर इंट्रोडक्शन का पार्ट डॉक्टर पल्लवी लेंगे और साथ में ही आपको पोर्टल के बारे में इंफॉर्मेशन भी आई थिंक डॉक्टर पल्लवी देंगे। सो या डॉक्टर सिद्धार्थ सर, ओवर टू यू।
Thank you, Mr. Sandeep. Good morning to one and all. Just a brief introduction. I am Dr. Siddharth Banerjee. I am a public health professional and I've been working with various organizations since the past 5-6 years. So I'll be basically talking about the overall rural health system in India, and then we'll touch upon a bit over the COVID situation in rural India. So initially, I would like to start with the rural health system that is very much diverse across all parts of India. If you see a rural health system in Maharashtra, as it is completely different as in comparison to of, if you see of UP or Bihar. So I will just tell about Maharashtra. From my experience, Maharashtra has a very good and robust healthcare delivery system, even rural healthcare delivery system, as compared to the parts which we are talking about, like UP and Bihar. They have a very good reporting system, a very good cadre of healthcare workers, frontline workers, who have a very well diverse kind of experiences, and they have developed their healthcare systems in that way that they can serve and cater to the last mile population. But in some areas of our country, like Bihar or UP, or maybe tribal belt of Odisha, Chhattisgarh, so we find that the rural healthcare delivery system has not come up as we wanted it to be. There is lack of resources, lack of knowledge among the community. There are communities which are very much marginalized, and therefore the healthcare resources are less, and we are not able to cater to them in a proper way. So basically, the issues which we face in rural India is related to the service delivery on one hand, and there are issues within the community. First, we will look into this both these aspects. So first, we will look into the issues which we face with the communities. So in the communities, as we know, there are many intersectionalities. There is very high disparity in relation to whatever there is a class, caste hierarchy which exists within the villages. So there are sections of people who actually get get the chunk of the healthcare service delivery, but there are sections which are in the periphery, and they are not able to receive the proper healthcare, whatever delivery we are trying to provide to them. Then there are community myths. So community myths is a very big issue in the sense that prevent people from accessing proper knowledge about diseases, about conditions, and such community myths. For example, I'm giving there. I have seen in some villages of UP there is myth regarding what food should be consumed during pregnancy. There are many myths regarding what small child should consume during initial years. There are myths regarding breastfeeding. So such community myths are there which actually prevent people from getting the right knowledge and actually changing the behavior according to the protocol or knowledge which we see mostly, or which are prescribed from by the medical fraternity at large. So thus community myths are very common. So that community myths prevent us in delivering the healthcare services to these people at various levels. Next is when at this point of time, the the global community, as well as the public health community in India, as well as the medical fraternity, they are focusing on totally, what is that is universal healthcare or universal health coverage. So the basic tenets, which includes we have to make the health services accessible, equitable, and also affordable to the people. And that is where we are lacking in the healthcare delivery systems in the rural India. All these specific aspects are missing, and that's why we're focusing on making the services as closest to the homes of the people. So teleconsultations, already they have already started in the health and wellness centers. We have different e-sanjeevani and all these options. So the government is trying their best from their side to reach the last mile population and give them proper services. But still there is lot of loopholes and lacunae that needs to be filled. And it's really good to see organizations like DigiSwast and now they're coming up and supporting this whatever the government or the global community is envisioning. And that is a really good opportunity to make the healthcare available for one and all. The one more thing I would like to focus is that in the rural systems, healthcare delivery systems, we see that uh, in many cases we find that there is a lack of empathy even from the side of the service providers, and that is also a very big hurdle in delivery of services. So empathy becomes very important from the side of the service providers. Unbiased behavior. There is also not able to provide the services because of lots of biases in the mind. That can be regarding many aspects, that can be regarding social hierarchy. So that also prevents the healthcare workers, the frontline workers from providing services to the people in the rural areas. And that has to be overcome with time so that the health provisioning can be done to the people in those areas. So this is basically about rural India and the healthcare system, which is quite different from the urban areas. I will basically now touch upon the COVID scenario. So now we have been seeing that the COVID cases slowly dipping overall numbers. So that's a good news. But we have been also hearing cases like the COVID cases have been, shifting slowly towards the rural areas. So since most of India is, 50 to 60% India still lives in the rural areas. So, and we don't have a robust mechanism to capture data from the rural areas as well as a healthcare delivery system, so that the people can be served with the proper medical interventions. So it's a matter which one has to think about, like what can be done in this aspect. So basically in the rural areas, many of the state governments, they have started engaging the quacks, which I, as a person, I don't feel it's a right decision. But they have lots of issues because they don't have medical professionals in most of these areas, and therefore it is very important that we reach out to these people and try to provide them whatever they require. There is misdiagnosis and treatment, improper treatment which is being given to them. I have heard that many of the rural communities have been misdiagnosed with typhoid and other diseases when they have the basic symptoms of COVID, and that is a cause of concern. We have been seeing cases where people are having the classical symptoms and still not able to get beds. Oxygen ventilator is a very far thing for people in the rural areas. So we have been facing a lot of issues in the rural areas due to the shifting of COVID from the urban centers to the rural section or rural population. So teleconsultation is a very good medium at present to at least manage the mild and moderate cases. Severe cases, it will be a tough situation to manage, but still if we are able to diagnose them at an early stage, maybe they will be able to get some proper treatment as early as possible, so that they don't reach that severe situation where they require ventilation and other advanced support systems. So it is very important to reach out to these people, and DigiSwasth is giving a platform to all of us to reach to them. And I'm really thankful to Mr. Sandeep for setting up this platform, and always wish him all the best, so that this platform goes a long way serving the people who require healthcare services, not only during COVID but during other instances as well. So that's all from my side. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Dr. Siddharth sir. अच्छा पूरा कॉन्टेक्स्ट जो समझाने के लिए रूरल इंडिया का. सो अभी आप लोग के पास कोई क्वेश्चन है, कोई डाउट है आप लोग का, तो बोल सकते हैं. इसके साथ में एक राउंड ऑफ इंट्रोडक्शन जो सच में शुरू में होना चाहिए, और हम लोग कॉल के लास्ट में कर रहे हैं. तो एक राउंड ऑफ इंट्रोडक्शन जो सबसे ज़्यादा इम्पोर्टेंट है, जरूरी है. तो अगर हो सकेगा इंट्रोडक्शन के टाइम पे कि आप अपना वीडियो ऑन कर सकें तो प्लीज़. और या डॉक्टर पल्लवी, अगर आप इंट्रोडक्शन ले सके सबका तो काफ़ी अच्छा हो जाएगा. थैंक यू वेरी मच.
Sure. So, assuming you all need maybe 2 minutes to get ready for the camera, मैं तब तक बस अपना screen share करके थोड़ा सा glimpse देना चाहूँगी of the platform that you all will be using. It's called Prescribe and it's fairly easy to use. There will be someone from Team Prescribe who will guide you again, but till then I'll just want you to have a look at it. This is the login page, and once you've logged in, this is where all of your all the appointments will come up. So this is just a dummy account. Here you can see the details of the patient, name, age, the contact number, timing of the appointment, and it says online appointment here. Now, when you click on start consultation, there will be a screen over here where you can video call with the patient. And while you're doing that, at the same time, you can also fill in the case history sheet. The case history sheet has everything that you need. You can also fill in private notes. Then when you click on patient details tab, there is also a timeline where you can see how many times the patient has visited and what was the problem when they had come, what was the chief complaint, what are the drugs prescribed. Then there's also an option to go for a follow-up and generate the prescription. Then the prescription gets sent to the patient through an SMS and email. So this was just a very quick summary of what it's like. And I can see some cameras have been turned on. What about rest of you guys? Okay, we can start. Whoever wants to go first, please go ahead and you can tag the next person. Okay, Devapriya, do you want to start? Okay, let me start. My name is Pallavi. I'm a dentist and I'm working as a digital marketing manager at Prescribe, working with Sandeep, trying to build DigiSwasth, and very excited to welcome all of you on board. Okay, now I'm tagging Devapriya. Go ahead.
Yeah, hello. I'm from Can Kids. I'm a social worker. I work in hospitals, Narayana Super Speciality and Institute of Child Health, Kolkata. So I'm at present volunteering at DigiSwasth. So I'm very excited also to work here. Thank you.
Thank you. That was lovely. Manushree, do you want to go next? I hope that's how you pronounce your name.
Yeah, ma'am.
Whoever wants to go next, please unmute yourself.
Okay, I'll go next. So I'm Dr. Manushree. I'm basically from Hyderabad, and right now, actually, I'm preparing for my PG. But meantime, since the exam is postponed, I'm trying to get associated doing volunteer for COVID helplines and help. That's how I came to know about DigiSwasth through Facebook, and I got to talk to Sandeep, Mr. Sandeep, and it's nice to be associated and get on board. Okay. So Next, I would ask Kavya to introduce herself. Thank you.
Hello. Hi, everybody. This is Dr. Kavya. I have been known about this site through Manusri. She actually posted in our group one day. Same thing. I have completed my MBBS and an internship in 2020, and we have been waiting to write the exam this PG this year. So meanwhile, I thought I could help you guys somehow. That's in the group I came across your Digiswasya, and I thought I would be of help. Thank you. And I think Dr. Lochan would take off now.
Thank you, Dr. Kavya. So Dr. Lochan is going to rejoin. In the meantime, who would like to go next? Dr. Prashant?
I am from Hyderabad. Yes, got to know about this telecommunication platform and very much pleased
Doctor, your voice
to
is breaking. I'm not sure if it's
be
just
associated with this.
Is it like that for everyone?
Yeah.
Okay. Dr. Prashant, can you just maybe connect to another, I don't know, I feel like a stable internet network would be better.
I
We're
think
not able to hear
वीडियो
you.
ऑफ करेंगे तो वो हेल्पफुल होगा.
हाँ, possible.
Yeah, Prashant, go ahead. आई थिंक जब तक इंटरनेट का कनेक्शन उनका बेटर होता है या फिर आवाज हम लोग को सुनाई दे रही या देगी, तब तक हम लोग दूसरे जन का ले सकें.
हाँ. Lochan, would you want to go next?
Yeah, I'm audible?
Yeah, you're audible, but we can't see you. Okay, we can see you now.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Dr. Lochan. I'm a dentist, and currently I'm pursuing my post-graduation in Department of Endodontics at Manipal University. And I got to know about this through Pallavi, and I'm really glad I'm a part of this. Thank you, Sandeep. Thank you, Pallavi, for having me.
You can tag the next person if you want.
I think you're better at these things than me.
Okay. I see Srinita on the call. Or maybe Prashant can go if Prashant's network is stable now.
Hello everyone.
Hi.
I'm Dr. Srinita. I'm a post intern. I came to know about this platform from Manusri. She is my colleague as well. So I'm looking forward to help people through this platform. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Srinita. Yeah, no problem. Dr. Prashant, you can just turn your video off and give an introduction if that's okay. No power. Okay. No worries. We can probably have the introduction again later since we will be in touch. So I think that's with that we come to the end of the round of introductions. Sandeep, I'll leave it up to you. You can conclude the session.
Dr. सिद्धार्थ वीडियो चालू करके अगर अपना इंट्रोडक्शन देते तो काफी अच्छा होगा. हम सारे लोगों को सुनना चाहेंगे. ओके, सो बाकी सब जन का हो गया. श्रीनिथा का भी.
हाँ जी सबका हो गया.
सो थैंक यू वेरी मच. आप सारे लोग आए और कॉल ज्वाइन करें और काफी अच्छा डिस्कशन रहा ओवरऑल स्वास्थ्य के बारे में, आप सारे लोग के बारे में जो जानने को भी मिला, और प्लस डॉक्टर सभी ने इस जो है सिचुएशन में भी वो अपना समय निकाल करके आए और हम सबको टाइम दिए। और हम लोग फिर शुरू करते हैं आगे का काम। आप लोग को हमारी तरफ से एक ईमेल जाएगा जिसमें कुछ प्रोसीजर रहेगा, जिसमें कुछ इंफॉर्मेशन आपको देनी रहेंगी, और जो हम लोग फिर पोर्टल पर आप सबको रजिस्टर करेंगे, और सो दैट हम लोग आगे पेशेंट के साथ में इंटरेक्शन जो है चालू कर सकें। और एनीथिंग कुछ बचा अगर है डॉक्टर पल्लवी ऐड करना है सो प्लीज ऐड कर सकते हैं, हमारी तरफ से डन है।
नहीं, that's all, Sandeep. In case for documentation or something, if you need a group photo the way you usually click at the end of the calls.
I'm so sorry. Yeah, right. आप सारे लोग को वीडियो में फिर से ऑन करना पड़ेगा, हम लोग ग्रुप फोटो लेंगे एक। अच्छा, दो तीन कॉल से ध्यान से निकल जा रहा है, पता नहीं।
It's okay, I'm here to remind you.
डॉक्टर सिद्धार्थ, थैंक यू वेरी मच। डॉक्टर सिद्धार्थ, हम सारे लोग आपको देखना चाहेंगे सचमुच आपका इतना अच्छा टॉक होने के बाद। और प्रशांत प्लीज, प्रशांत शुरू में वीडियो चालू करके बैठे थे, पता है 10:50 से। मैं जैसे स्क्रीन चालू कर मैं बोला कौन है। अच्छा, तो अगर मैं ऐसे करूँगा तो कैसे स्क्रीन सॉल्व लूँगा, कोशिश करता हूँ। ठीक है, स्माइल, once more. थैंक यू वेरी मच। मैं 2 दिन इसका स्क्रीनशॉट लिया हूँ, जो सबसे बेहतर होगा मैं आप सारे लोग के साथ शेयर करूंगा। और अभी हम एक ग्रुप बनाते हैं, हम जितने भी लोग थे हम लोग उसमें ऐड होंगे और फिर आगे का डिस्कशन चालू करते हैं, ठीक है। सो थैंक यू वेरी मच, आप सारे लोग ज्वाइन करें once again. Thanks a lot. Bye bye.
Thank you everyone for joining.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye
Have a nice
everyone.
day.
Bye.